Right place.
communication. We're in the right place and we're live on
Now,
YouTube.
I'm about to go live
So
right now and do the intro.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
can hear
Do
me.
the intro when you need to.
What
So
is up, profitable stylist? Here we go this week. We are talking about Are You Fast Enough? The ultimate speed test for services. We were on Facebook, now we're on TikTok, TikTok or something.
TikTok, YouTube. So so the ultimate speed test. Are you fast enough as a hairdresser is a question I wanted to ask earlier in the week, and we thought it'd be a good topic to talk about. I'm going to unpack a lot of things here with speed. Um, Eddie says you can be fast, but you don't have to go fast.
I don't think you have to go fast. I think you
Yeah.
have to have the ability to go fast, but I don't think you
Well,
have to be fast.
I think that it all relates to what you brought up with communication, but then speed versus money. So I think you can be slow if you can charge enough, but then you got to be good enough that the clients are okay with you being slow, and then they have to know that you're slow because you said it, or detail oriented, whatever you want to call it. But if you're slow, and I'm going to use some gigantic example, if you take all day to do one client, how much money do you need to make a day to survive? I think that would be the point.
$1,000.
Yeah. So if it's 200, 500, $1,000, $2,000, well, then do one client and do whatever they want. Spend the day with them. Go to lunch, whatever. I used to do that with extensions. I was at like anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 for a head of extensions, and I would make $800 to $1,000 depending on how much hair we're putting in, and I would just book one for the day, even if I did finish in 3 or 4 hours. I just thought I don't want to be rushed. The thing that makes me sweat is running late for the next client. And I don't like that. So I loved the tedious, meticulous work of extensions. And my goal would be to book one per day, even though I've done 2 and 3. I've done as many as 3 in one day. With an assistant, I've done 5 full heads of keratin tip extensions in a
Wow,
day.
that's cool.
And yeah, that was starting at 7 in the morning, not finishing until close to midnight that day. It's going to a hair show, and I'm putting it on hairdressers in the salon and their friends or helpers, receptionists coming to help. And we want all the girls helping me on stage to have extensions and to promote extensions. So we did 5 heads in one day with an assistant. I didn't do all 5 solid. I was working on all 5 heads with another person helping. But that was a stressful day. On the days when, and it wasn't as stressful because it was communication. It was hairdressers that work for me or with me, and they knew, hey, we're going to work on you, but then we might work a little on her. You go to lunch, go outside, smoke your cigarette, go to the bathroom, whatever, and we're going to keep working, and maybe we're going to stop and eat and go to the bathroom too. But the ultimate thing how I think about computers, like right now, if I had problems with my computer, the guy would come in and do a speed test. There's no freaking test for us, right? There's no do 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 do.
But I
We're not
told
fast
you
enough.
earlier there is a test. It's when your
Tell me about
next
your
client
speed
is
test.
sitting there looking at her watch saying, I'm here for my appointment. Are you going to take me? When are you going to take me?
Right.
That is your
So
ultimate speed
the
test.
speed test is when you lose clients, piss off clients, and I'm training a new. I feel like I should look at TikTok when I'm talking sometimes to them too, but just recently, we did it on Facebook, but some people came in late. Let me say it now that we're on YouTube and TikTok. I'm training a new guy, and I see him later in the day, and I ask, "How did it go?" And he's like, "The highlight went great." And I want you guys, we're talking about speed, and I've said new guys, so you guys are going to see it. But what do you read into this when I say he says, "I think the highlights went great, but she ran out so fast that she didn't even want her hair, with wet hair. She didn't even want her hair styled." I was like, she probably wanted her hair styled an hour ago, but now she's like, I got to get my kids from school. Aftercare's probably text her 3 or 4 times. They're getting ready to call social services. Her husband's pissed off because there's no dinner on the table. If she's the cook in the family, or he's cooked and he's got dinner on the table, she's
Yeah,
not there
right.
to
It's
eat it.
getting cold, right?
Yeah, yeah. So much is going on. Maybe she's on an hour lunch break and she had to say, I got sick. I'm not coming back in
I
today.
had stomach issues. I got stuck in the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I can't. Whatever it is, it took too long. And ultimate problem was what you said: no communication.
There was no communication, and that's the thing that a lot of new stylists run into. But I'll tell you, even a lot of seasoned stylists run into that as well too. You get into such a routine with your client, and you're like, "Oh, hey, Betty, sit down. All right, I'll go mix your stuff. I'll be right back." You ain't even asked, anything. You're like, "I've been doing her hair for 20 years. She ain't gonna change." I'm
She'll be
like, you're
fine.
right. So don't you need to communicate, and you need to communicate multiple things, especially if you're a new stylist, but even more especially so if the client is new to you, because you don't know what that client is used to prior to seeing you. They may come from somewhere where they were there all day because that prior stylist was slow, or
That's a good point.
here's a good
That's a
example.
good point. Because you
Yeah.
brought up earlier, talk to this a little bit. You brought up earlier, because we're talking about not being fast enough. You were talking about the downside of being too fast.
Well, and then that's the thing, right? Because if you're very confident and if you just are used to working quickly, and that client is not used to that, and they don't know that you work quickly, and if they're used to a highlight taking 2 hours, and now you're doing it in 45 minutes or an hour, you're doing it in half the amount of time what they are used to. They're
Right.
looking at you as not a thank you. They're looking at you as, hey, wait
Half
a
the
minute.
quality.
Yeah, did you skip us? Did you cut a corner on me?
Yeah,
Did you
you must
what
have.
what what happened over here, right?
You rushing this service
You're
here?
rushing this.
Right.
So,
It's like that's when you feel like I can't win.
well, this is a good example. Carmelina's mother, my mother-in-law. The first time I colored her hair, I did her base color and her highlights together at the same time. It's a very common thing with hair color. She was not used to that. Whoever she was seeing before used to
We're doing
color
them
her hair
separately.
first, process that, wash it out, blow dry her hair completely, apply the foils, process that, wash it out, and then blow dry her hair completely a second time. So she
Wow.
was used to doing it in 3 to 4 hours. Here's me. I come in and highlight. First of all, I apply her hair color, and then I grab my foils and I start putting foils in over her hair color. And she goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, what's going on?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just going to do it together at the same time." She, what? Like it was a mind blowing experience for her. She had never experienced that.
Right.
So there was so many questions were asked. I was interrogated to high hell, and this was in the very beginning when we had first gotten married, and this is the first time I'm doing her hair. So
And you were not a new stylist. You should have communicated that with her, huh? But you were so used to doing it, you didn't even think that was a
I
new
didn't
thing.
even, to me, it didn't
That was
matter.
normal.
And I'm
That's
thinking,
interesting.
yeah, and I'm thinking, this is, we're like doing that as two separate processes was something we used to do regularly 20 years ago. I
Right.
didn't think about
And
it.
many stylists stay stuck in their 20, 30-year ago
And that's my bad.
education.
Correct. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that.
So, one of the experiences for me that turned a little arrogant because I got mad in the consultation was I was good at communicating, but I wasn't good at being nice. And so
Okay.
I,
Okay.
but it came with running a salon, having two assistants, so much going on. It's more about managing what's going on, and I needed to learn to be a little more polite. But that's not what this video is all about. We'll do that, and because I did change my attitude, and for good reason in the future. But I want to talk about this one situation because it kind of pertains to what we're talking about. I knew communication was important, so I would do a consultation, and I was doing a consultation with a lady who was referred to me, and I ran two assistants at the time, and I was explaining to her what was going to happen. I'll be doing her highlights. One girl will be working on one side of her head. I'll be working on the other. And she's like, "Oh no, that's going to come out different." I said, "Oh no, it won't." And then she goes, "I would prefer just you do my hair today." And I was thinking and kind of said it. I was thinking, well, the reason I'm doing this consultation is to let you know how I work, not to ask you to tell me how to
How
do
you
my
want it.
job.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of how I took it, and I was like, "Oh man!" And I should have been nicer. I wasn't at this time. I mean, I'm not proud to say I wasn't nice, but I'm just being honest. I wasn't nice, and I said, and then this other assistant, I was using their names. I just don't want to use their names now because they're still in this town, and they don't work with me now. Very nice ladies, both opened up their own salons, very successful after. But I said, and so will shampoo and style your hair because me and the other assistant will be moving on to the next client kind of thing. I'll be doing the cut. Um, And so I explained everything, who's doing what. And at the end, she said, I'd really prefer if you just did everything. I said, now, didn't so-and-so refer you to me? And she goes, yes. I said, well, that's how we do her hair also. I'm just really kind of letting you know how we work in the salon, or how I work in the salon. I work with multiple assistants, and certain people can do certain things. And I didn't want it to surprise you. But it's not okay for you to tell me how to do my job on your hair. Because I'm thinking, because then these girls are just gonna be sitting around, I'll be running late for the next client.
Yeah, right.
So this is the system that works for me. And if you don't like it, you can leave right now, is what I'm thinking. You have to leave, because I can't make it work any other way. So I said, well, this is how we do it. And I'm okay if you want to go to another stylist, even in this own salon. I'll even recommend one for you and say what I recommend doing. Would you like to see so-and-so who's over there reading her book, twirling her thumbs because she doesn't have a client, you know? I was not happy. I'm thinking, girl, I'm telling you how I work. This is how it's going to work. And you know, I think in some ways the confidence won out, because I was like, your friend's hair looks great. We're going to make your hair look great. And this is how we do it. You want to do it or not? I got to move on. I don't have time for this. And she said, okay, we'll try it your way. We did it my way. She loved her hair. She rescheduled it, because she even said she didn't know she was going to reschedule. I said, oh, no, I have to use assistants, and you have to reschedule before you leave, or you'll never be able to get in again. We're booked solid. We just had somebody move, and we had an opening in the schedule. And so you're filling it, and there's time in the future for you too at this day and time. But if you don't fill that time, if you don't want to ever come back again, what's the point in us doing your hair today? Go somewhere else. You know, I got this system in my head. This is how we're going to do it today, and you're going to come in the future, or we don't even start it. You know, and I was a little rude about the whole situation, but it all worked. She got her hair done. She loved it. She rescheduled. She came back. She tipped all three of us, and she was a customer for years to come. But that was all out of communication and confidence. It wasn't the nicest way to handle it.
Well, no, it's not the nicest way to handle it, but that's exactly the word. You just said it. Speed. So I measure, I like your example on how you measure speed with your staff, but the way I measure speed with the staff is speed equals confidence. I
didn't say how I measure speed with my staff.
I'm going to ask you to say it. Yeah.
I did it on Facebook. Go ahead. Say it the way you understand it.
Yeah, because
or do you need me to say it?
No, I'll let you say it, because I'll say how I measure it as, but I want you to explain it, because I like your way of doing it too. So with me, speed equals confidence. The ability to go fast equals confidence. And so the way you're speaking, see, and then you just have to measure what the client is asking for, because your confidence is one thing. The experience to the client is entirely something separate. If you are slow, generally speaking, that means you are not confident in your ability to do what you need to do. Generally speaking, right? You something is holding you back, and you're combing too many sections, or you're
combing the same section too many times.
The same section for 10 minutes, over and over, and you're not just cutting that section and moving on to the next one. That is a sign of weakness. Your ability isn't there yet. Versus, you can fly through a haircut in 5 minutes today, but tomorrow that same haircut might take you 10 or 15 minutes. Now, whatever reason the next day it's taking you longer to do it, there's 100 different variables that we can discuss. Okay, fine. But you're choosing to go slow for whatever reason the next day. It's not because you are slow, it's because you're choosing to go slow. Now, when you have that confident level, when the client comes in and they're talking to you about something and they're asking you questions, you're communicating with them, your natural confidence is going to come out. You're going to be able to do a consultation in 5 minutes and say everything you need to say, because you could do the work in 15 minutes and be done in 20. Versus you're doing a 30-minute consultation because that's a slow consultation. If you're spending 30 minutes trying to explain to somebody what you got to do, if you can't explain it to them in 2 to 5 minutes, dear Lord, man, either that person's asking you 1,000 questions, and why are they asking you 1,000 questions? Are you not coming off like you know what you're talking about?
Get to the point, right? Help them get to the point.
Or help yourself get to the point, because you must be rambling on about something.
Right.
And you are trying desperately to get out there what you're trying to do. So that's the way I look at speed. But I like, if you don't mind explaining the way you measure speed with your staff, I really like your take on it as well.
Well, it was a few things. First, I was saying it's okay to be slow if you charge a lot of money. But the bottom line is, how much money do you need to make to survive, I guess?
Mm.
And so we talked a little bit about the big side of it, but let's say you're trying to make $1,000 a week. How many days a week are you working? You know, if you're working 5 days a week, how much is that? Is that 200 a day? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes. So you got to gross 200. If you're making 50% commission somewhere, you need to pull in $400 per day. So can you make 400 a day? I don't know what that is. Maybe that's two full highlights at $200 each, and you're
Right.
there. And then you can do it, and you can make decent money. But it's all based on how much you're making per hour, really. And so that's what we do. And so I was talking about, I don't know if did I say my top three stylists? We average it out.
No, I like that example. I really like that
we
example.
we average it out in our salon. My business partner is really good with math, so he kind of does the math in his head as they're saying their numbers. There's certain numbers that we first of all we take the last 3 months and we average it and add 10%, and that's the goal for the hairdressers every week. When they come in, we're doing it for the whole month. So what I do, the first thing I do is I think our meeting yesterday. What was today? The 11th? I can't look on my phone.
Yeah, the 11th. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do some quick rough, really rough math. And I say yesterday was a tenth. They should be about a third of the way through their goal, right? Because so if a
On
hairdresser says
average, 30 days in a month. Yeah, sure.
that's what I'm doing. Now with holidays and time off and vacations, we actually count the working days for the month, and
Okay.
so it's not always 20 days. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 more or less, depending on how many days are in the month. So it's a little rough, but so I'm doing some quick down and dirty rough math. And
Sure.
yesterday I'm looking at a third. So the hairdressers go around the table each week, and yesterday I'm gonna if somebody says my goal for the month is to grow 6,000, because they're in my salon. It's everywhere from 2,400 to 15,000 is the monthly goal. Some of them are up there. And so if somebody says 6,000 for the month is my goal now, it's usually some odd number, 5,800, 62, 63,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'm rounding. So I round down to, if it's 6,200, I'm like, okay, 6,000. At $6,000, third of that is, is this right? In twos, two, two, two. Yeah,
Yeah.
two, 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 two. So they need to make 2,000 per third of the month. Now, if we're in the 15th, I'm like, ooh, they need to be at half of their 6,000, right? They need to have made three. So they say my goal for the month is 6,000, because the goal is the same every week, because it's for the month. And then each week it's somewhere around a quarter, a third, a half, or 3/4. And so depending on how the month falls, and I'll quickly know, like in my head, they're a little behind or a little ahead of their goal. And we're like, oh, you're a little behind. She's like, I know, but I can do it. I had a slow week last week. I got a busy week next week. Good for you. What are you going to do different to try to change it? And we talk about that. But then RJ started doing some math, which was fascinating. My two top stylists both have their goals around the same, 10 to 12,000. I think is where they're at now. 15 was where one of them was a few months ago, and she's dropped last year, and she's dropped down a little bit. So they're both in the 10 to $12,000 range. One of them, we ask them how many hours did they actually work on clients each week out of the
Mhm.
40 hours that they're here. We have them say, I work 20 hours, 28, 19, 32, whatever. Go and look and see how many hours you actually were working on clients. And so and then how much money did you pull in, and how many clients did you actually work on? And so RJ does a couple of averages. One is, what is the average amount your clients are spending? And our top stylist is $250 per client average over the last few
Nice.
weeks. And the number two stylist is $90. I was surprised it was so low. Now, that stylist is doing a lot of repeat business, and it's just he's got the exact same clients coming in again and again. The other stylist tends to do a lot more hair extensions and high-end dimensional services and fantasy colors, and is always driving those color and chemical prices tickets up, and has some really high maintenance wild colored clients. Great. So the one hairdresser saying, I don't want to deal with all of that all of that craziness. I don't know how to do all that stuff. Don't want to learn how to do it. I like my just real simple, do a bunch, a client every hour kind of life. The other one is spending 2 or 3 hours per client. So she does a lot less clients, but pulls in a lot more money. So, she's selling a lot more retail too. So then the third stylist in line is at $150 average. And that's 100, 150 is a more I don't know, a more common thing for hairdressers to be at per hour gross pulling in. It means if you're at 50% commission, you're making about $75 per hour. That's pretty damn good money
Yeah,
for a
sure.
hairdresser.
Sure,
Sure,
sure.
some make more, some make less, but that's kind of how we gauge it all and try to see like how much are you making per hour that you actually work, how much are you making per client that comes in, how many hours are you working, and that way they got an idea like, hey, if I quit and became a McDonald's worker, would it pay more or less? It's not that you need to get paid per hour, but it's good to know what are you making
Well, you got to
per
know
hour.
what you're producing, you know. We did a video a couple weeks ago about setting smart goals.
Yep.
And that's why I love, and I appreciate you sharing that example because I love that example because it's very realistic. Giving yourself whatever your number is, taking whatever you produced and setting yourself a goal to attempt to produce the same or 10% more
10%
is
more.
very realistic. It's very
Very. Yeah.
achievable, and it's measurable as well too. It's not some fantasy thing. You can do it. And then that's the whole thing. You get to do it within your comfort level. Some people, you're right. Look, I'm always fascinated here in Chicago with the cost of living of what it is in some of the neighborhoods. There are barbershops that charge $5 haircuts still to this day. And
How do they survive?
they
They got
do
to do them in
five
5 minutes.
$5 haircuts, and they are jammed all day every day. They're banging out over 100 clients a day,
Wow.
and they're making their monies, and they're making their weekly, and they're making their monthly, and it's fascinating to me. And then you go to some of these high-end salons.
I see that in New York. I see these salons doing 7, 8, 9, 10, $12
Yeah.
haircuts, and I'm like, I don't understand. I've been to salons in New York where I did interviews there and taught hair replacement. And this one guy was charging $500 for men's cuts,
$500 for a men's
barber
haircut.
cuts. So it was like I saw $12 right down the street and then $500, and I
Yeah.
was like,
It all comes down to the frequency of what you can produce per hour. Now, yeah, we don't talk about getting paid per hour so much because that's not the industry. But when you're looking at setting goals and when you're looking at figuring out, here's the joke I make. You yeah, you wanna decide what
"Are
your
you reading your
lifestyle.
joke?"
No, there was a comment.
I know. I'm
Um,
just kidding.
yeah, you charge five. No, it's like, yeah, you do $5. You do over 100 haircuts. You made $500 that day, and you're
It's
like,
not bad money per day,
that's not
right?
bad money at the end of the day. But you had to do 100 clients.
Yeah, and you got to
Some
pay some
people,
bills. So you're not keeping all of that money, but right. If
right?
you're
But it
the
is what
if
it
you're a
is.
barber and one person in there might be keeping the majority of their money, which would be the owner. The rest are sharing that money to
Sharing
pay the
that money,
bills
so you
in
got
the
to
place.
hustle.
And so
So you got to
yeah.
decide
So
what your lifestyle is, and you got to figure it out. And you got to say, if I need to produce this much income to live this level of lifestyle, you got to figure that out. And that speed is gonna matter because that's my joke. At the end of the month, the bill collectors are gonna show up on time every time with their hand out saying, "Where's my money?" And you can't sit there and say, "Oh, I was a little slow this week." They don't care.
they don't care. They don't care if you were a little
So
slow.
you got to
So
work it out.
So this is the things I wrote down for hairdressers that have services that so a couple of ways to make more money is this whole video today is based on speed. Are you fast enough? Are you charging enough? Because to me, time and money go hand in hand, right? Time is money. Some people say time is money. Money is time. Yes, in a way. If you're not, you can take all day if you can charge enough, but then you got to be good enough, or at least convince them that you're good enough. So there's a lot of balancing here, right? But for most of us, normal, regular people, because I got to admit, I'm gonna get a little sidetracked, chase the squirrel for just a second. I was always fascinated watching Guy Tang on his YouTube, Facebook, whatever. He's doing
Okay.
hair. He would do, and then I'm on the inside of the world. I'm working on stage, so I get to talk to some of the people behind the scenes, and it was neat to. Oh, so sorry, I kicked the tripod. It's really neat to hear. Like he's just in a one little room, and he just does the one client for the day. He doesn't even do one every single day. Well, I don't even know what he does these days. But when he was at the height of his building his popularity, he was charging like anywhere from $1,500 to a few $1,000. It was $2,000 for the one client to get that those dance moves.
It was the experience. It was the day
It
to
was
spend the day with him
experience,
and have the
right?
experience. Yeah.
Right. So he was famous or gaining fame at the time. So the clients feel special to get an appointment with him, first of all. So yes, they're paying for the experience, like going to Disney World, getting the right to say, I got my hair done by Guy, got to dance, got to be in his video. And that's all set up beforehand. If I do your hair, you have to be okay with me doing it on video. We're going to do some twerking together. We're going to spray you in the face with the hose to get some views or some clicks, likes, whatever. It's going to be crazy. And they're fine with that if they decide to do it. And he's charging enough money to just because he's got video cameras, he's got to get production, he's got editing time. So he's got to charge enough to make enough money on one client. And that's what gave me the realization that you can do one client per day.
Mm-hmm.
You can do one client per week if you charge right. So the next thing is for the real people out here, we're a lot closer to the real people. How do you balance all that? We talked a little bit about it, but one of the main things you can do to change, there's two things, but one of the first main things you can do is get a little faster at what you do. Because most people don't mind getting out a little bit quicker. Sure, you can get better and you can charge more, but the first thing is getting faster. And how do you get faster? You have to actually time yourself. And I got this from Jude, the guy who did the social media chat with us a few weeks ago. He's in the karate world. He teaches karate, and he's got a whole training camp, one whole day or 2 whole days, where it's called Rep Your Face Off. And so they are doing reps until their faces fall off. Not literally, but anything you do till your face falls off, you get the idea. Rep your face off. So it's a camp in a particular move, like maybe it's bow staff, and they need to learn how to spin that stick, throw it, and catch it. And so the very first thing is we're going to do that particular move 1,000 times. 1,000 times. People leave his seminar with blisters on their hands, blisters on their feet, very sore muscles. Takes them 3 or 4 days to recuperate from. But when you do anything a lot of times, you just automatically get better at it. My son, he throws this bow staff in the air, and it's got to spin so many times, and he's got to catch it. And I can tell you at this point in his life, he's dropped it more than he's caught it. But he's starting to catch it more often than he ever did in the past. And so it's just like any one of us kids throwing a ball and catching it, throwing something and catching. It's that hand-eye coordination, getting used to it. He's getting to the point where he knows that when he throws it and it starts to spin, as soon as it leaves his hand, he knows, whoops, it's going to be a little this way, this way, this way, this way to catch it now. And so he's starting to learn the adjustment. And so it's kind of fun to see. It took me to a whole new level in the hair world. I used to think the better I taught something in an extension class, the better the client would be. Then I realized, shut up, Bernard. Stop talking. And stop them from talking. Just give it a try. Just do it. Okay. Now do it again. Okay, now do it again. Now take it out and do it again. Now take it out and do it again. And that's what gets them better. And then they even have better questions. So putting it in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out. Haircuts. This is what I'm telling some of my newer girls. I'm training them how to do haircuts. At first, sure, the first cut or two, I don't care if it takes 3 days to do. Let's get through the pattern and the technique I expect from you. Now you understand the technique and the pattern. You got the right fingers through the holes. You're opening and closing the scissors correctly. You're not taking your thumb out of the hole when you comb the hair. They grab the comb and they still got their thumb in the scissor hole. I'm like, no, take your thumb out. Control the comb better. So after we get all the techniques worked out, now they're just combing too much. They're just combing too slow. They're cutting too slow. Too big a section, too little a section. Now it's like, forget about quality. and let's just work on speed. You got most of the technique right. I don't care how ugly this haircut is now. It's on a mannequin head, just mess it up. Now I'm timing you. Start the haircut, stop it. This is what it took you. This next haircut just needs to be faster. That's all I care about. I don't care how many hairs you miss. Go through the pattern. And so you got to practice speed separate from quality sometimes. And so if you just run through it, you'll start to realize, like, you know what? Some of those steps I skipped to be fast with foil highlighting, I went faster, so I folded the foil less times. I might not need all those folds. If I just need it to be covered, I don't need to make it a teeny tiny neat little Christmas package and fold it 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times. And so maybe I don't need the fold, laying my foils out and folding the top edge on 100 foils before I get started might be a waste of time. Maybe that can happen as I put it in the hair. So when you practice speed without quality, just for the sake of speed, you start to find new ways to go faster and realize that you're doing stupid stuff in the middle and in between. You have anything to add to that?
The training that I do with new stylists is 30 seconds. That's the goal. And 30
Full head
seconds.
foil highlight? Or just what does that mean?
No, yeah.
Finish
The whole head in 30 seconds. We're like a microwave Pop-Tart over here. In and out, boom, done. Nuclear, melt your tongue. 30 seconds per application of section. That is the goal. That's what they're working towards. And for a new stylist, they're like, that sounds impossible, but it's really not. It is very, very achievable. Realistically, I want them to be spending 1 minute or less. The reason why I tell them 30 seconds is because it puts the pressure. And when somebody works under pressure, they force themselves to move quicker. And that's really what I'm trying to do to them mentally. So how we start off is this. Just like you're saying, forget about the quality. We're going for technique.
Right.
So we use music. I use music. A song on average is 3 to 4 minutes. I want to see how much can you accomplish by the end of one song. So if we split the head into 5 sections, if we take the 2 sides, if we take the back of the head, split that in 2, and then we take the top of the head, everything above the parietal. Those are your 5 sections. So in 5 songs, and if each song is about 3 to 4 minutes, in 5 songs or less, you should be done. That's about 15 minutes.
Wow, that's
or
fast.
Less. That's the goal. So now what happens is this.
How many foils are you putting in each section?
I don't care if it's a haircut, a blow dry, a foil, or a hair extension. Because this is what I want to break it down per service, and I want to get your feedback on this because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So the idea is, I don't care.
I'm letting TikTok see you now, so I'm trying to.
What's up, TikTok? So this is what I try to say is how much can you get done by the end of one song? And when the song ends and the next one starts, I don't care where you're at, you're done. Move to the next.
Woo!
Move to the next, move to the next, and move to the next. Because here's the thing, what happens on the
Can you
first...
play Bohemian Rhapsody for me?
Yeah. Or Dragon Force, yeah. Then you'd have 3 hours to do everything.
The dance mix of Tainted Love.
Seriously,
Good 8-minute song for me. Put it on repeat.
Right. No, and that's the whole thing. But what I see them doing is, by the time they only get this much done, but then by the next section they get a little bit more done. By the time they get to the top of the head, they almost bang out the whole head, the whole top of the head.
Oh, that's interesting. So they get more done in each section.
Because you
That's a great idea.
Groove. You start moving into your flow.
Next section.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I do
Put
is
the combs down.
Once they can consistently get through that section within a song, I start doing I literally, and I use a cell phone because everybody's got a phone. Well, for the most part, everybody's got a timer or stopwatch on their phone. I start doing 1 minute. How much can you accomplish in 1 minute? And then finally get down to 30 seconds. And this is where I want to break it down per service and ask you, in a haircut, a lot of people waste a lot of time combing this section to try to cut what they want to cut. And then they comb it, they get it in their fingers, they let the whole thing go. They comb it again. They get it in their fingers. They let it go. They do that about 3 to 4 times. It makes me mental. You're spending way too much time just trying to cut one section of hair within that segment that you're trying to get through. What is your opinion on that? Because it makes me
No,
absolutely mental.
that's a great idea. I've never, the whole timing thing, I didn't do for years. I have to say, I mean, big services, I realized like, oh wow, taking you too long to do a full highlight, taking you too long to do extensions, taking you too long to do a haircut. I just knew that we had the computer asked us, what does Sam charge for this service and what's
Mhm.
her duration? And we'd put it in the computer, and then she didn't fit that duration for the scheduled clients. And so we'd have pissed off clients because they're having to wait too long. So I realized we have to roughly know. I didn't mind if they took a little longer, just put it in the computer. Then they take even longer, and sometimes they go shorter, and then they complain. They had big breaks in between because we have them booked out too long. So that's the only reason time mattered for me, was trying to schedule clients without pissing off other clients. But then when Jude came into my life with the karate world, everything for him was time. Everything he does is
Mhm.
was for time. And I realized, he said, it doesn't matter what it is, you time it and people get faster. And I was
It's
like,
very true. It's
it's
very
so
true.
true, because you feel like you're on a clock, and you just feel like you have to work faster. So you work faster, and then the next time you time it, you actually know if you're getting better and faster. So it's more than it puts pressure on you and you work faster. It actually helps you continue to get faster and faster. So I don't even have to be here. I set up a mannequin, and I say, do this cut on this mannequin. Start your stopwatch and tell me how long it took, and text it to me. Text me a before and after picture and text me the time. So I don't even have to be there. So then I can log it. 90-degree haircut, 30 minutes,
Yeah, sure.
28 minutes,
Sure.
20. I can see if they're getting faster and faster with that same cut. And of course, I'm trying to give them a head with the hair about the same length as the last time, because obviously longer hair, bigger head, different density of hair can make a difference. But overall, are they getting faster with the cut that's exactly the same as the last one they did? They should, because it should get faster and easier. So much so that, kind of joking around, Jude asked me one time, he said, you could probably do a haircut with your eyes closed, huh? I said, you know what? I think some haircuts I probably could. He said, you should do a YouTube video. I'm like, oh, whoops.
Blindfold.
Yeah, blindfold haircut. I've never even looked that up. Do people do that?
I
I
mean, they do
wonder.
that at the circus when they throw the daggers at the board with the balloons on them.
At
That's what
least
comes
this
to
I
my
can.
mind.
At least this way I'm feeling my way around. So I was like, I probably could do, uniform. I couldn't do a buzz cut. I couldn't do anything with
I'll,
clippers, but
I'll tell you this way, Bernard, make sure your shears are nice and sharp because you're going to chop your finger.
I think I could do it. I'm not gonna do it. I just think I could, and I'd probably do it on a mannequin if I did it, so that I'm the only one getting hurt in this demo. But it was a thought, because a lot of I do cut hair, and I look at other people while I'm talking sometimes, and it's so methodical that I feel like I probably could, because a lot of it is done by feel, but it's also out of repetition and practice. That's another thing. Yeah, too many hairdressers try to do too many new, creative. They want to do everything brand new and different. And I say, this is one of my sayings, and it's probably not a popular saying, but money is made in the mundane. Money is made in the boring. And I hate to say it that way. And of course, you don't let the client know that it's boring. But when you get good and fast at something, Scott Cole with Paul Mitchell told me that. He
Mhm.
said the money is made in banging out the same. Because I asked him, he was teaching a class, and I was like, it must be so. I was young, and I was like, it must be so fun working in salon with you and your wife. Y'all do all this wild, crazy stuff. He goes, no, we do the wild, crazy stuff around the kitchen table at home, and then come teach you guys for new and creative ideas in the salon. He said, Linda's just banging out regular full highlights like y'all do in the salon. She's just doing them really fast and has a lot of assistance. And I just bang out the same haircuts these clients have been getting for many, many years, over and over. Do a
Mhm.
haircut every 10 minutes, and somebody else is shampoo and blow dry and styling, and Linda Udich is doing the color. And I thought, oh, wow. he's the big fancy, getting paid a lot to come teach us wild, crazy stuff that they don't even actually do in the salon because that's not where the money's made. The money's made in learning how to do something and then almost cookie cutter, doing it over and over again, but not letting the client know it's the same old thing over and over. New conversations, maybe a tiny little tweak, maybe we leave it a little different here or there, but 90% of the service is the exact same thing you do over and over. That's how you make a lot of money.
It's the experience. Everything,
That's
all
right.
of this timing comes down to the experience. Timing equals confidence to a certain effect. Speed equals confidence to a certain effect. When the client's sitting there and you're pulling that section because you're about to cut it, like you said, the client can. It's not just you feeling what section you're taking. The client is also feeling your hands on their head, taking that section, pulling that tension.
That's a good point.
That comb dragging across their scalp. If you're
and they've had haircuts before, so they know if you're confident doing it.
No, they can feel it.
It only comes from reps.
It's energy. It's transference of energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what color your aura is.
And it's a thing. That's why they had those mood ring things. That's why I could never win with those mood rings. Mine was always black. I had a defective every
Your
one.
mood ring was always black? Really?
It was always defective. Mine never worked. I never had one that worked.
It worked. There's something dark in you. It didn't work. God, when are mood rings coming back around? Everything comes around.
I hope they never come back.
I'm going to have to see if I can find one on Amazon.
Oh, God. But that's the whole thing.
Mail you one.
When you're doing...
Show it on air. What color is your mood ring?
When you're doing a haircut, stop combing. Just comb it once or twice. Get it in your hands. Cut. When you're doing a foil, set that timer for 30 seconds. And what you want to do is set your timer for 30 seconds, press start. Take your tail comb, section it off, grab it, weave it, lay your foil down, take your color or your lightener or your bleach, slap it in that foil, fold it up again, corner tab, whatever you do. Stop.
Fold it up again. Don't fold it up again.
No, I'm not saying turning it into a Christmas packet. I'm just saying fold it over on itself a couple of times if you have to. I don't care what you're doing.
Use red foil on the bottom, green on the top, fold it 16 times, fold the edges over every third time that you fold it up.
Right? When you're doing a blow dry, don't sit there and hook out that section and then prep it 13 times.
Wait. Blow dry. I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of the things I wrote down. We're talking about speed and we're doing mostly pretty expensive services. We're talking about highlights, extensions, color, but cuts. But blow drying is a big one. And then I got to end it, and I got to go a little early. I got to bring hair to a lady in New Orleans. But blow drying is a huge time waster for most people because they don't do it right. And I know you got some fancy class you teach on how the art of
15-minute blow dry. A 15-minute blow dry. That's my class.
Is it called the art of blow drying?
No, it's called the 15-minute blow dry. Master the 15-minute blow dry.
Well, who does one that's called the art of drying or the art of blow dry?
No. Art of the blow dry is a program from the Ergo brand of
brushes. Is it Ergo, Art of the Blow Dry? I knew they had a fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm just pointing that out that it's obviously a class needed by a lot of people for them to actually have a class named, and you have a class named. I've never specifically named it. I remember when we worked with Paul Mitchell, they had something called the Power Dry. Most of the tech systems have a technique in there that is basically getting the majority of the moisture out before you start working on the detail of the drying. And I think that's the part a lot of people skip. I think that a lot of people will have, for me, one of the measurements is when the client goes from the shampoo bowl to the chair, I look at I'm like a tracker. If I can track the client in the salon by their drips.
Oh, with the drips of water.
If I can go from the shampoo bowl to the client's chair following the water path, you have failed. Use a freaking towel and squeeze it a little and get the water out the hair before you get to the chair. I should not be able to find you in the salon by a water trail first.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
And then second, I get to the chair and they start detangling, and there's a puddle by the chair. So some of them don't have a way to track them because they put the hair all up in a towel on top of the head. They didn't dry it or squeeze it out or anything. They just held it all in. Then they get to the chair, pull a towel out, and then just make a pond on the mat right there behind the chair. And I said, that's not acceptable either. There should be no dripping. And if there's dripping, there's a good chance their freaking back is soaking wet because you might be using a cloth cape instead of a waterproof cape. So if you're using a cloth cape and the floor's wet, their back's wet. It's sitting on that cloth cape. You should have it towel dried where there's no dripping moisture. Not to mention, that's less water to water down the products you're putting in and less time blow drying if you can get some of it out with the towel. So first of all, dry the freaking hair with a towel at the bowl and at the chair. Get another towel if you need to if it's long hair.
Wring the hair out before you even wrap it in a towel. You're in the bowl.
Good point. Yeah. Twist it until their eyes go like this, and their face is like.
Yeah, give them a Botox treatment. It's good for them.
So, right. So, it's funny because that is a learning curve also. I've grabbed hair a little too close to the head for that ponytail squeeze and they're like, and they're like, oh, wrong time and place for this. And so, yeah, squeezing that water out of the hair without hurting them. And even guys with short hair, even if you just push your hand through the hair and almost squeegee it out. Good point. Yeah, get the water out before a towel. So that's a good start. And then after you get the water out the hair and you towel dry it some, even if you need a second towel, you detangle, I imagine. Tell me if I'm missing a step. Then we usually put some products in the hair, right? 1 or 14 styling products that you're going to need for the day. Oh my God, it always drove me crazy when people use more than 2 or 3. But it's fine. I get it. If you got to put 7, that was the company's ways of selling more products when they started talking about cocktailing way back in the day when cocktail was actually a movie and cocktail was a thing. We drank mixed drinks and it meant multiple things together. We cocktail products. I'm going to use 3 or 4 different products. You should better get it in less than 3, but I don't care. Use as many as you want. But the point is, this is the time to put the products in, right? And then, what is the point of this next step? Of this next step that I would call a power dry or removing? What percentage of moisture would you teach in this step before you start doing your more controlled, precise, planned, round brush blow dry?
Okay. So everybody talks about 70, 80% dry. There is no tape measure that shows you 70, 80% dry.
So how do you talk about it? Yeah.
What I do is this. I say, look, you comb, even you towel dry them and everything, right? So they're not dripping all over the place, but they still got a lot of moisture in their hair. So after you comb them out and after you put the products in and then you comb that product through to make sure it's evenly distributed through all the hair, you got to start tossing it, power drying it, use your hands and just quickly start blow drying their hair to the point where if you run your hand through their hair and you pull your hand away and it's wet enough on there that you have to wipe it off, you need to dry them a little bit more to the point where when you run your hands through their hair, if you can feel moisture on your hands, but not to the point where you need to wipe your hands off, that's when you start doing the finish work. Get the brush and start detailing the style.
So that's interesting. So power dry, blow dry, remove most of the moisture, at least to a point of not to like when you go to the bathroom these days, most of them don't have paper towels anymore and you got to air dry. Does anybody I know. Yeah, right. Does anybody air dry until your hands are this dry? No, because we don't have the time. We're under that hood, that warm dryer, and you leave the bathroom and there's still a little. That's probably the dampness that you're talking about.
That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, just when you're on your hands, you just barely feel like I'm good enough to not need a paper towel or a towel to dry my hands. So that's interesting. That's probably more dry than I would power dry, but that's good. But let's talk about one other purpose of power drying or something else that should be happening during that time. You should have an overall image in your mind of what direction or style's going on, right? Because during the power dry, you can get some style going on during this too, right? You might be, your whole style might be a little flatter, parted down the middle and flat. So your power dry is not going to be they're not going to be hanging upside down, blowing the hair up and getting a lot of lift at the scalp. So I would not say there's a lot of attention paid to the mid-strand or ends during a power dry, but maybe at the scalp, like what direction you want the bangs to go into. Are you doing fullness or flatness? And I can tell you want to talk. Go ahead.
Everybody has a free 5-bristle brush that they don't know how to master. Do you know what the
a free you call it a free
5-bristle brush? Do you
Why
know
you
what
call
the
it free 5?
Yeah, every single human being has 2 of them. Well, almost every single human being has 2 of them.
This free one? 5 bristle. I was like, 5 bristle? Does he mean 5 rows?
No.
Okay.
So you're using your hands when you start positioning your hands in there, and then you start hitting it with the blow dryer. That is what you're talking about. You start building the style into the hair. Because if you're just sitting there and just blow drying the hair like this, and your hair looks like it's in a tornado, or you've been driving with the top down during the summertime, now you're starting to go in there and you're trying to, control it with the round brush or a flat brush or whatever. Forget about it, man.
But that's what a lot of people see, though, and it looks like that. When you or I are power drying, it might look like a tornado, but there is some organization to the chaos.
Very, very,
it's very organized. Like I know that this girl parts her hair way over here and she wants it down and across her eyes over here, but her hairline likes to push up. I'm putting heat on the scalp in this area down and forward, and I know she wants it to sweep over this way and cover one eye, and if I blow it over to the side, it's not going to cover any eyes. So I need it down and forward, straight forward, a bit of apart, so that when I start to style the mid-strand and ends with a round brush or a flat iron or a giant curling iron or getting something to sweep, the roots are going. I know people hate to use it roots. Sometimes they want to say the base or the scalp, the hair near the scalp. But the near the scalp is going almost straight down. So then I can sweep the rest around. So there's so much going on with the power dry that's encouraging. I learned in the back for really short cuts, like short graduated cuts. If I blow dry it straight up in the back power drying, well, it's just going to stick straight out and look stupid. But if I blew it straight down, it'd be too flat. But I learned if I just went to the left, went to the right, went to the left, went to the right, it's given a little bit of lift, but give it just enough fullness that I could come back and round under. It would even make it kind of curl under a little bit by going left, because it would hug the curve of the head, right? Curve of the head. So then when I brushed it down, it would actually have a little bit of curve, using the curve of the head as my giant round brush. My fingers to push it against the head and off to the side would give it just enough lift at the scalp. And a lot of these things are just learned by accidents or experience.
And by experience. It's the pain of running behind schedule and getting yelled at, or getting that ultimate pressure of the next client saying, "Hello, TikTok sucker." So that's really what it comes down to. That's everything
a wrap.
I could tell you about the timing. Yeah, it really is. It really is a measure of profitability, of confidence, and the overall experience for you to deliver to your client. That's the thing what matters the most. That's what we got. We'll catch you all next week. Let us know what you guys do for your timing to make your guys faster in the salon. Thank you all for watching. We will catch you next week.
I thought I would give